Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about specifically what it means to have your sun in Leo or your sun in the 5th house. My name is Brandon, and I do astrology videos here on YouTube. This is part of a much larger series that I have been doing, which has been all the planets through all the signs and houses in zodiac order. So I have done everything up to Cancer. This is the start of Leo week, so this is the sun in the very first video, and it is none other than the sun in Leo and the sun in the 5th house. So if you have your sun in Leo, or if you have your sun in the 5th house, this video is for you. There's going to be timestamps down below that you can check out to see specifically when I talk about what, because I'm going to be breaking this part up into a couple different videos here, a couple different portions, so you'll be able to kind of watch through as you want to in that regard. And the sun, I'm also going to talk about specifically what the sun means in astrology, so feel free to check that out as well. And that'll be its own segment in here before anything else. And then obviously, if you guys know, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. This is the YouTube algorithm. You know that the algorithm loves when you engage with it. So feel free to like it, comment, all those things. I want to hear if you have your sun in Leo, hear if you have your sun in the 5th house, how that experience has been for you. And if you don't know if your sun's in the 5th house or not, there's also a link down below you can check out to see what your chart is, essentially, and if you have your sun in the 5th house. So if you ever check that out, and of course, if you're interested in any sort of readings with me, feel free to check out my website down below as well. So without further ado, let's just go right into what it means just in general with the sun within the context of astrology. So the sun in astrology has a very unique sort of energy to it, because it is a lot of what we are conditioned on. It's a lot of what we focus in on. And so when we think about the sun, depending upon where it's at in the chart, what aspects it's in, what sign it's in, this is what we're raised on. This is what we're shown who we are. We're definitely aware and more conscious of our sun sign. Every single person, for the most part, knows their sun sign, and therefore really understands what that sun sign entails. However, people don't understand all the time that their sun sign may be something, but their moon sign, their Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, all those planets can be in other areas of the chart as well. But the sun also really shows a lot of the main psyche of the individual, the main identity of the individual. And so it has a lot to do with how we are choosing to show up, how we are what we are shining light on, how in what areas of life we are shining light on. So the sun in other areas of the chart, as well as other signs, as opposed to Leo in the 5th house, you're going to see that there's going to be different identifications with different things. It's all about our identification, our relationship with our father, our relationship with just our authority and our light in the world, and what we do with that light, and how we utilize that light, how we don't, those sorts of things you'll see with the sun placement. And of course, the sun aspects are going to have a really big level around here as well. So so that is really a lot about the sun there. It's really important to see what other aspects you have with the sun. Of course, your sun's ruler is going to be important, but seeing as the sun rules Leo, this kind of just becomes, this video in specific is a very just prominent solar video. So there's a lot of just, solar energy in this series. This whole week is going to be quite solar. So it's going to have quite a lot of themes around identity, identification, inner child, those sorts of things. And the themes around creativity and creating something for the joy of your own soul and your own happiness. So without further ado, let's go right into what it means just to have your sun in the sign of Leo. Okay, so the sun in Leo has this very bright personality, and it's very interesting because when the sun is in the sign of Leo, it's obviously at home. It's comfortable here because it rules Leo. And if you've watched any of my other videos, specifically the ones that are, Venus in Taurus, Mars in Aries, Moon in Cancer, a lot of these planets that are within their own signs are dignified, meaning that they work really comfortably. They are very at home in this energy. And now the thing that I've found, without really going too deep into this thing, a lot of the time those that have, I found a lot of clients that have their specific planets in dignity, in its home sign, or even sometimes in exaltation, but typically in dignity. So in the ruler of that sign, the planetary energies and lessons around that theme and that sign become a lot stronger. And so with the sun naturally ruling Leo, there's almost going to be this overexpression of identity that tends to happen, or this idea that the identity is so important and so broad, and there can be, although the sun in Leo is great, it's the king at home, it's great, the sun loves to be here, and it's so comfortable with the adoration, with the acceptance, with the kind of the peers around it looking at it and adoring in how, beautiful the sun is and being enamored in that way. There's a lot of just looking at this sun god and being so blown away by how bright and how beautiful that they really are. And the thing about the sun in Leo, it can have this really bright kind of light to it, that it's able to give light to other people because it has this natural tendency to share its light. When the sun is comfortable, when it's in Leo, it is a very giving sign. The sun is our heart. The sun is our identity. The sun is our light. And when it's in Leo, it just wants to give. It wants to love from the heart. It wants to share. It wants to lead. There can definitely be a very strong energy around the sun in regards to ego and identification. And what's really interesting is that there's a lot of tendencies for Leo suns, just Leo suns as standalone, not looking at the rest of the chart, to have a very big, honestly, a big sort of assumption that Leo suns are very egotistical. They're very self-centered. They're very, they think the world revolves around them. And that is that's a very solar statement to make, where the sun the earth and all the planets revolve around the sun. And so when you are a solar world person, you kind of think the entire world may revolve around you, but also in the same way, you are very also capable of allowing and creating a world that that revolves around you and creating a really great audience. And there's a lot of just natural kind of rulership and royalty that comes with the sun in Leo. It's this very royal, regal energy that people want to be around the sun in Leo, and they're kind of connected to that brightness and that kind of leadership and power that comes with the sun being in the sign of Leo. And when we see the sun in Leo too, it's really important to see what aspects are going on. Because, for example, one of my best friend, she has her sun in Leo opposite Saturn. And there is a very different awareness when the Leo is being forced to be aware of the Aquarian part, which is the audience. When the king is forced to think about its peers and think about its employees or the audience. It's not necessarily so enamored with itself and its own role within society, but able to be aware of the other people. And that's something that I think Leo suns may struggle with sometimes. I love my Leo sun friends. They are beautiful, amazing people, and they have so much light to give to the world. But it's a lot about how they are able to brightly share that light and mend that to other people. And the thing that the sun is in Leo, there's typically a very interesting relationship with the father. The father typically will have a pretty strong hold within the identity of the native, because like I said, when the sun is in its domicile, or any planets in its domicile, it's almost like those specific themes become even stronger, because it wants to illuminate that, in this example, the identity, the ego, the creativity, the inner child, the joyous part of life. It wants to illuminate that and allow that to be seen. It wants to allow all aspects and all beauty of that inner light to be seen, even if that light is, dirty, or it has darkness, or it has stuff. It's still these kind of like inner children that are just like learning how to go through life. And we're all just grown-up children really trying to just heal and work through our own things. And so the sun in Leo really wants to do that. And it has this very deep connection with children and just the inner child, and connecting to that kind of purity of light that we see with the sun. And a lot of sun Leos, you can see them in entertainment, in creative projects, and natural born leaders, because the sun in Leo, a lot of the natural born leadership energies are going to be Aries, Leo, Scorpio, and Capricorn. There's a lot of just natural energetic focuses around leadership, and the sun is a very important one in that. The sun is our light, and so we see that the sun in Leo may have a very big light to give. And like I said, it's about creativity, it's about speculation, it's about games, it's about having fun and enjoying life and creating something out of that. The fifth house and Leo both have correlations with games and entertainment and speculation. And so when you think about, we'll talk about this more with the fifth house, but when we talk about fifth house planets, as we go through this week here, you'll see a lot of themes coming up around love, romance, enjoyment, speculation, sex, gambling, the markets, understanding what is, like gambling, like horse gambling or horse betting, or just games in general, video games, sports games, performing like games like gymnastics, or any sort of art, any sort of creative art is very Leo and fifth house. And you'll see this as we go through this week, is there's a lot of consistent overlap with what those planets are doing in that house in the fifth house, and also in the sign of Leo, that are going to double up on this person. How creative are they? How beautiful are they willing to show up for themselves? How are they willing to create such a beautiful life for themselves? And how are they allowing themselves to be seen? There's a lot of allowing themselves to be seen that we tend to see with this Leo placement, or just Leo placements in general, is about how you show up, how you express yourself, how you allow your light to be shown to the world, and in turn shared with the world, because the Leo placements are all about sharing that light. It's that solar kind of warmth and joy and creativity that we tend to see with a lot of just beautiful energy that comes with the Leo placements here. And so, looking at the sun in Leo, I really urge you to look at your identity, your ego, what you think is important to you. Because the thing about Leos, there's a lot of reputation energy. There's a lot of focus around who they are in the world, their role in the world, how they want to be seen in the world. And the sun here is very aware of its perception. And so it's a lot about being okay with being perceived. And a lot of the time with the sun Leo, there's almost this, not in the same way as like a sun North Node conjunction, but there's a lot of like perception that is being kind of given to them naturally, and awareness of others. It's almost like they're just naturally perceived. They're naturally aware of that they're being watched, or that they're being, observed by people. And so they're on their best behavior, and they're able to share and kind of work within that space. They're more than likely more comfortable being seen than not, as the sun is very comfortable in the sign of Leo, and the sun is just our light. It's how we show up. And there can definitely be some very interesting potential for just kind of thinking that they're the only ones that matter as well. There can be a kind of focus around them being the only center of that world and having everyone around them. There's kind of, once again, there's that regal kind of, you are my servant kind of thing that can happen with Leo. But at the same vein, Leo can be one of the most loving and supportive people in your world, because they're wanting to give you that light. They're wanting to share light with you, share that joy, that inspiration, that fire, that like passion for life that the sun is all about. It's all about having passion and joy and invigoration and just having life. It gives us life. And when the sun's in Leo, it gives us so much life, and it's a reminder of that life, and it's a reminder of that brightness of life, and being able to consistently share that light with everyone around us. There's a lot of beauty in the sun in Leo. So if you have your sun in Leo, obviously look at the aspects and see what else is going on with the chart, and how things are kind of laid out in that way. But yeah, it's a beautiful sun sign. A lot of my best friends are Leo suns, and they have a lot of beautiful things to bring up, and a lot of light that they just naturally share with the world. And they're really, really bright leaders. They're all really powerful people, and they've all risen to a lot of success simply because they allow themselves to be seen and perceived. And there's a lot of perception that they have to be willing to open themselves up to, sometimes more. And that's where that awareness of the audience, which is the opposite of that, right? Aquarius comes in. Awareness of the perspective of others that comes in. And that's my Aquarius side coming out. So I'll get into that when we do the Moon Leo video, which is opposite my moon. So there's a lot of conversations there. But yeah, so the Sun Leo overall, I think it's a lot about the ego development, being able to be your own person, being able to be your brightest self, have your own sort of identity center and your own sense of self and why you're here, what you're here to do, create in that space, those sorts of things. So it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful energy. I love Leo suns. And if you have Leo sun, feel free to put down below how that experience has been for you, in a group setting, in a personal setting, a romantic setting. There's a lot of romance here too. And yeah, so then from there, we're going to talk about the sun in the fifth house. So with the sun in the fifth house, this is going to have a little bit of a different approach than the sun in Leo. Because the sun in the fifth house is going to illuminate that sort of inner child work, the creative thing. There's a lot of things that, when it comes to Leo, this is the birthing process. This is children. This is our creative babies, things that we create from our own flesh and blood, our own passions. And the fifth house really speaks to that creative endeavor. And this could be like just art in general, or anything that you consider your child, or that you consider to be something that you have created and that you've poured your energy into. Typically art is a big part of this. Art, creative projects, you know, anything that is coming from you in a way that brings you joy, something that you created through joy and through your heart and through your passion. That is a fifth house thing. And when the sun's here, you really bring awareness to that. You want your identity to be around creating things, helping children, helping bring out your inner child. And so when we see the sun in the fifth, we can definitely see this natural connection to just educating children and helping children. You know, if we have the sun in certain signs in the fifth house, you're going to see more of a focus around different ways of, you know, connecting to one's inner child, and the purpose of that, meaning that if the sun is in like a mercurial sign like Gemini or Virgo, you're going to see this identity that is centered around writing and speaking and understanding and communicating and helping others understand their inner child. So this is where you would see more potentials for people, especially Gemini, in the fifth house for sun. You can see there's more potentials for being a child therapist, or a child sort of, you know, like a preschool teacher, some sort of teacher in that regard is what we'll tend to see with the sun in the fifth in Gemini or Virgo, and like a mercurial sign, because there's a lot of just utilizing the words and the kind of written and vocal ability to connect to children and create something out of that. In that same vein, you can have a lot of creative writers with the sun in the mercurial sign in the fifth house, where it's going to be creating something that is very, you know, connected to their own inner child and their own joy and their own spark, and keeps them alive a lot of the time. And that's the thing with the fifth house and Leo placements. They almost have, when they have children or anything that they are able to creatively pursue, they're lit up in a way that keeps them going and keeps their faith and keeps them alive. And I think with the fifth house planet, especially the sun here, it's a lot about preserving that creative energy and always learning how to connect to that and perpetuate that and shine light on the importance of that as well. I think there's a lot of importance around inner child work and connecting to the inner child that we will see kind of play a part over and over again with the sun in the fifth house. So that's in a mercurial sign. In a Venusian sign, so either Taurus or Libra, this is going to be a lot more of the like legitimate artists. I'm not saying that any other sun fifth house is not legitimate, but a Venusian sun in the fifth house, whether it's Taurus or Libra, especially if it's Libra, they're both artistic in their own way. Libra in the fifth with the sun there is going to have a little bit more of this might have a little bit more of a difficulty, but it's going to be a lot of the relational value, the relational beauty. The sun does not like being in Libra. It's a little bit uncomfortable, but it does have a natural creative purpose when the sun is in the fifth house there. And it has a lot of stuff to do with fashion, with visual art, as well as with social art as well. So you'll see the sun in a Venusian sign as Libra in the fifth. This is when you'll see someone, once again, this is kind of like a child therapist, but this would be more of like a family therapist or a marriage family counselor. You could see that a lot here too. But it's about being able to really bring beauty and bring harmony in the relationships from a childhood's perspective, or to a child from the parent's perspective. There's a lot of that there, but it can also just be about beautifying and teaching something that is allowing value to be passed on to the next generation. A lot of the fifth house planets you'll see are about the next generation and passing on that light, right? And the sun and Libra in the fifth can have this almost like difficult relationship with their own children, for sure, but it's about being able to kind of understanding their child and connect to that inner child. There's a lot of stuff there too. And then the sun in Taurus in the fifth, this is very much the visual artist. This is the one that creates the clothes. This is the one that does the singing, that makes the art, that has the aesthetic, the eye for art, the eye for something creative, something beautiful. There's a lot of that with the sun Venus there. Making speculative sort of gambling. You could see that here with the sun in the fifth in Taurus. I would definitely be interested in how they are dealing with their money, and what they're using their money on and what they are putting it into. There's a lot of art that could be invested into with both the sun in Taurus in the 5th, as well as potentially the sun in Capricorn or Aquarius in the 5th is going to have more of a long-term goal towards their creative pursuits, towards their hobbies, towards their interests, towards games. Capricorn sun in the 5th, this is a lot about creative business, obviously, as well as just being able to slowly but surely create that and connect to that inner child. And maybe there might be some delays in potentially having children. This is more seen directly with Saturn in the 5th house, but more of a later in life you have that responsibility because you've learned to share who you are and to understand the light of your situation. And it's a lot about, for Sun in Capricorn, you'll see this when we get to the Capricorn series, but it's a lot about the delays and the patience with whatever that planet is. So the sun in Capricorn in the 5th is a lot of being patient with how you're slowly unveiling who you are and understanding who you are to the world. Sun in Aquarius is a little bit different. This is a little bit more of a similar to the Libra sun in the 5th, where it almost is uncomfortable with being perceived, with being seen. This is a little bit more uncomfortable because the sun naturally rules Leo, and in Aquarius is a little bit more like I want to do for others. So this is where you'll see a lot of child advocacy groups or child like it's very much giving camp counselor is very much what I'm getting here with the sun in Aquarius in the 5th, where they're not really known for their specific work, but they're more so known for the organization that they work for or for the help that they're giving to children and or creative endeavors. And so there could be a very interesting relationship with creating from social media, as well as potentially working with trends with the sun in Aquarius in the 5th house. There's some interesting stuff there where there's a delay, or there's an interesting perception on how they want to be seen. And so the sun Aquarius's Libra risings there. Definitely hit me up, because you guys have some interesting conversations to be had about your identity and how you're choosing to be seen or not choosing to be seen and pushing it off and rejecting it. So there's definitely some interesting stuff there with the sun in Aquarius in that 5th. Now, if we put it in a Jupiterian sign, so there's sun in Pisces, sun in Sagittarius, this has a lot more, obviously, truth-seeking, faith-focused purposes in the sun in Pisces and Sag in the 5th. This is going to be, especially Pisces in the 5th sun, this is a lot more of the creative, the artist, the kind of artist that's everywhere. The person that, and I talked about this, I think, with the Taurus videos, but when it comes to artists, it's so interesting to see how they see the world. And I think sun in Pisces has that very unique quality to it, where it kind of has that throughout its entire life of just seeing the world in such a beautiful and kind of not even rose-colored glasses, but like in such a unique, beautiful, artistic, sensitive way. And there's a lot of artistry that comes from the sun in Pisces, but also in the 5th house, it doubles up on that and creating from a space of art that is very beautiful and very projected on. And I think there's so much there. Sun in Sag also has that too, but it's a little bit more because they're willing to explore and try new things and teach something. This is very much art teacher, but someone who went to school for it for a very long time and became more on a higher level of the collegiate level, or someone who is interested in foreign language or foreign cultures that wants to create a project from that, create a book, work on something that is helping foreign children too. That's another thing with Jupiter the sun in Pisces, sun in Sag in the 5th. They're both kind of like dealing with potentially with refugees or foreign children, or their foreign children, or their children might be foreign or born in a different country and stuff like that. There might be some very interesting stories being said around how their children or their childhood was very different, or very different in the religious sense and or spiritual sense than their peers, and how that has impacted their identity and how it makes it difficult to be different in that regard. Also similar to the sun Aquarius, but that's a little bit more extreme with that one than it is with sun Jupiter, sun Pisces. Very interesting there. Then we have the sun in a Mars sign. So then we have sun in Sun in Aries and Sun in Scorpio. This is a little bit interesting. The Sun in Aries in the 5th, this is someone who's going to shine very brightly as a creative in a very quick way. They're going to create something that is going to be really successful and just have a lot of success in general through when they are allowing themselves to be seen. There's a lot of very interesting stuff here. Maybe their children become extremely successful as well and allow them to be very powerful and very recognized. There could be a lot of powerful recognition in the childhood creative endeavor, video gaming, or just sports in general. There could be a lot of strong sports energy here with the Sun in Aries in the 5th house. A lot of strong athletes I could see with this, especially if a really strong Mars is placed really well up there. Mars in Capricorn, even Mars in Aries can have that really strong energy there. There's some interesting, really, really cool stuff there because they're likely going to be a Sag rising, and there's going to be, there'll be some pretty powerful Mars placements if they can work that out there. But anywho, getting kind of caught into that person's chart, whoever that is. But the Sun in Aries in the 5th can be very leadership. This is very leadership energy, but because it's the 5th, it's not really allowed to be seen until it is brought into a creation, meaning like it is birthed into something. So this could be literally their child, or this could be their creative project, their art they made, their book that they created, their art, their graphics, stuff like that can definitely have some very interesting qualities to it. Sun in Scorpio in the 5th, this is going to be someone who has a very interesting connection to trying to reclaim that inner power, that inner child. And so there can be kind of addictions here, dopamine addictions and or a little bit darker themes, but ultimately it's about finding the light within the darkness of that inner child and being able to create and stand out for who they truly are, and be seen for who they are with the Sun in Scorpio. There's a lot of Sun Scorpios that struggle with that, being able to be seen purely for who they are and allow themselves to be seen and known that it's not too much. And I think that's something that the Sun in the 5th house, it's all about that, about being seen and being perceived and being true to yourself. And the Sun Scorpio has a lot of layers. The more difficult sun signs, Aries not as much because it's exalted here, but Scorpio, Capricorn, Aquarius, Libra, those signs all kind of have a little bit more of a difficulty with identification things because there's natural kind of karmic ties with those signs that the Sun is a little bit more uncomfortable in or needs to learn very unique and specific lessons. Sun in Pisces also similarly as well, but not in the same exact vein. And so the Sun in a Mars sign is going to have a pretty prominent identity, struggle, fight, willpower. It's about how they use their will. And so there's a lot of power in that Sun 5th house with Scorpio there. And then finally, the Sun in Cancer in that 5th house. Sun in Leo, I already kind of talked about that. Sun in Leo in the 5th is just going to be a lot of 5th house Sun stuff. Every time I talk about like a doubled up Sun in 5th or Moon in 4th, Moon in Cancer, Moon in 4th, those sort of stuff. It's very much a doubling up on those things. So it makes the whole theme of the Leo and the 5th house even stronger. So there's definitely some ego stuff, some identification stuff, some needing to see themselves for who they are. And that's where the aspects would become really important when the Sun is in Leo in that 5th house. There's a purity of identity expression and ego and growth about who they are and allowing themselves to be seen and expressed for who they are. There's a lot of importance around that needs to be really keyed into. There's a lot there too. So the aspects are really important for that Sun Leo. And then the Sun in Cancer. I think that's the last one. Yeah, that's the last one. So this is where you'll see a very sensitive soul, someone who is really trying to care for themselves and know how to emote with themselves. And it's almost like they had to parent themselves typically. Sun Cancers typically have that parentifying themselves. They have to grow up and emotionally support themselves a lot. And so same with the Sun Pisces, Sun Scorpio, all the Sun water signs in the 5th kind of all have this identity around emotional supporting of themselves and learning that story. And Sun Cancer is definitely no stranger to that, but in the fifth, it is learning how to essentially take care of its inner child a lot deeper than the average sun sign in the fifth house, because Sun in Cancer is about being supported emotionally and meeting your emotional needs. And so there could definitely be, much like the Sun Scorpio can have this too, where there's a therapy energy. I said that with Gemini as well and Virgo, but Sun Cancer has it a lot more. It's a lot of like family child therapists. There's a lot of that. Child psychologists I could see with Sun Scorpio as well as Sun Virgo in the fifth. There's a lot of different things that this sun can do here in the fifth house. This is a really kind of interesting placement to get into, because the sun in the fifth is such a understandably self-centered, trying to figure out who it is, what it wants to do, what role it wants to do, who it wants to become. And the sun placement is going to just really layer that. And that's another thing. I really think it's really important for you to know what your sun sign's ruler is doing and where that's at in the chart, because that's going to give you a lot of other context too. So definitely look into that part of the chart. So if your sun's in Scorpio or Aries, look at Mars. If it's, in a Jupiter ruled sign, like a Jupiter, right? Saturn ruled sign, like it's Saturn. There's going to be a lot of prominence in this chart here in regards to what planet is ruling that sun sign, because it's almost like your secondary planet in a lot of people's charts, depending upon how you look at it. And so I would really urge you to look at what your identity is, what you're bringing your light into, how you are identifying something, and what you choose, what you think is most important about your identity, right? And so if we look at just the rulership, if it's, if you're ruled by a Mercury sign, so Gemini, Virgo, your identity is going to be really focused around your mind, your opinions, your thoughts, your voice, your ability to discern what the truth is or isn't. Similarly, Jupiter has that same truth seeking, but it's about the truth on a higher level, on a philosophical, creative, kind of spiritual level as well. Mars is, you're gonna have so much identification with your willpower, with your anger, with what you can accomplish, what your goals have been, and what you have accomplished, and what you've set out to do. Similarly as well, Saturn has that same vibe, where there's a goal accomplishment or identification of your goal, but more importantly, identification of who you know and what what you put your time and energy and what your career is and what you're here to do. There's a lot of capitalist energy with the sun in Capricorn, which we'll get to when we get to that week there. And there's so many things. So the sun and Venus signs, there's a lot of value around you being able to beautify the story of your inner child and the story of your childhood, and be able to see the value in what you had to go through as a child. That's a lot of what I tend to see with the sun in a Venus ruled sign, and finding beauty around you and creating beauty every step you go with the Venusian sign. And if you have your sun in Taurus or any of those signs prior to Leo, so Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, feel free to check out those videos in the description box below in the playlist. And then, if you have any other planets in Leo, this week is for you. So feel free to check out all of these videos as they come out in the next week. And then if you have any planets after this, obviously make sure to subscribe to the channel, but check out that playlist down below for more ideas on what those videos are when they come out, because there are definitely going to be a lot of them, as we're only kind of about halfway through, as we're at Leo right now. So yeah, I very much appreciate you guys for being here with this journey with me. This is such a fun video series to make, and I'm so excited to see what happens when this is all said and done. So thank you so much for being here today. If you have your sun Leo, sun in the fifth house, feel free to put down below how that experience has been for you. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, leave it a thumbs up, do all those things that the YouTube algorithm wants from me. If you're interested in any astrology readings from me, feel free to check out down below. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.